Okay, then let's get cracking. First of all, thank you everyone for joining. It's great to see so many people here ready to give up the last bit of their summer holidays, but also their bank holiday weekends. So yeah, great to see so many people joining. I hope you can find it useful and we can get you sort of set up and ready to go.
Okay, then let's get cracking. First of all, thank you everyone for joining.
Going on. Apologies. Yes, I hope you find it useful. Hope you can hit the ground running in September when that comes tomorrow, and you can sort of make the most of what we are offering to sort of benefit your students back in the classroom come next week. Hoping obviously that lockdowns don't happen and things like that, but obviously I can show you a little bit about what will happen in that case and how we can continue supporting you in that situation. It may be that you used us before during lockdowns, in which case you'll know some stuff already, but hopefully I can shed some light on how various schools across the country have been using us during that period. But also as classrooms sort of start to fill up again with students, how you can start to use it or continue to use it with your students in a physical classroom. So to get going, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you. If there are any questions that come up over the course of the session, what I'm going to encourage you to do is just don't feel like you have to wait for a certain period of time to ask those questions. All you need to do, you won't be able to unmute yourself on the system, but what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to just open up the chat at the bottom of your screen, and you just be able to send a message. And what I'll do is towards the end, I will go through all those questions and make sure that we answer them so that everyone's on the same page and everyone has the things that they want to get out of this session answered. Okay, so just keep them coming in as and when you have those questions. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you. So just give me 1 second, I'll get that set up. Okay, so hopefully you can all see that, which is great. What I'm going to do initially is just talk you through some of the sort of background of Seneca, make sure we're all on the same page with that, just briefly, because I'm aware that a lot of you will already use Seneca a lot. But then I will go on to show you the functionality, specifically what we have and how that works with Teams and Google Classroom. So just to start off with the very basics of what Seneca actually is. So we are a homework and distance learning platform that delivers content to students and allows you as a teacher to monitor their progress, send them in the right direction of particular assignments you want them to complete, and yeah, just generally like keep an eye on what they're doing. So there's lots of useful parts of it that people may not know about as well. So just to run through some of the highlights. First of all, it's all based on cognitive science. So the what has been shown to be effective in learning is sort of baked into the program and the way it works. Everything's on there is also automated. So as I say, the content's already there. You don't need to produce new content yourself. It's all written by experts in the subject and like experienced teachers. So that's all there, and also the marking's all automated for you as well. Also, you can track progress of your students. So as I mentioned, I'll show you later what that looks like, but you get some nice sort of diagnostics on what your students do and don't understand. Fourthly, it's adaptive. And what I mean by that is as a student starts completing some work on Seneca, the system will basically learn what the student does and doesn't know. And the differentiation that you would normally do in the classroom is automatically done through Seneca. So the students who are doing really well will be pushed on to sort of harder concepts and quizzed on the harder stuff, whereas the students who are struggling a bit more will have a bit more of be given a bit more support and focus on the easier concepts. So that's sort of how the system sort of works at a sort of basic level. I won't go into too much detail of the sort of science behind it or anything like that in this session, but you can join one of my other sessions to learn about that. But I will just talk about how we have, as I say, incorporated some cognitive science in there. With the theory of that is pretty sound in terms of how people feel that what the current research shows of how people learn. That is an effective way of doing things. We obviously want to make sure our implementation of the theory is effective. So we have done some research to make sure that is the case. And this was comparing two sort of independent learning methods that students might use. So one being revision guides and the one being Seneca. And what we found was with very similar pre-test scores, the post-test scores on Seneca were over twice as high when students were using these to study independently. And that's with a large sample size, as you can see. And it was peer-reviewed and published. If you want to read about it, you can just look it up in any of these journals. They're available online. I think the ASE, the science education one here, you might need a login for, but the other two, you can see the research papers published there. In terms of where we are with Seneca, so we'll have a whole host of different subject teachers and age group on the call now. So we do have content that goes right down from year 3 up to the end of year 13. And I say all the content's there, and where necessary, it either maps to the national curriculum at Key Stage 2 and 3, or to the specific exam board specifications at Key Stage 4 and 5. And currently we've got 3.25 million pupils using it and about 140,000 teachers. Those numbers have probably gone up since I updated these slides, but the numbers go up quite quickly, so it's quite difficult to keep track of them sometimes. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is, as I say, I'm going to talk you through some of the basics of how Seneca works, and also show you the integration specifically with Teams and Classroom, Google Classroom. So you can see exactly how it works with these systems that may be new to you, maybe new to your school, or maybe something that you've used in the past, but hopefully you can see how the two interact with it quite nicely. So to start off with, so this is your sort of, as a teacher, you have a teacher account. This is what you'll see when you sort of log in. You've got some classes along here. So I've got 3 groups here. It's very easy to create a new class if you want to. It's just a process of going through these steps. You just give it whatever name you want, and you then click create class. And there are a few different things you need to do to basically get the class enrolled. So obviously at the moment we've got a class, we don't have any courses assigned to it, and no students and no assignments. So we talk you through those processes as and when you need them. And as always, you will be able to get help. That will always be there as an option in case you need some support. So the first step is to add some courses. So I'm going to click on here, and it's going to take me to a list of courses that I can add. I can do a search at the top here, or I can do these filters down the side here. So you can see exactly what you want to do. You can just select whatever you want. So I've selected these 3, for example, and I just click add courses at the top. And there you go, I've added those 3 courses. I'll show you a more comprehensive list of the courses we've got in a bit later, but I'll just add those for the moment. Secondly, it's create an assignment. So again, get help if you need it, but let's just go in straight away and create an assignment. So I selected 3 different courses there. All chemistry courses are different specifications, which you probably wouldn't do with a real class, but just as an example, I can select the course I'd like to set an assignment for. I can then, if you're a chemistry teacher or familiar with the spec for Edexcel, you'll recognize these sections straight from the spec. So I can select as many or a few of these sections as possible. Again, outside the scope of this session probably, but if you want to, you can have a look through what the content looks like. So I'd recommend going and have a look at that. But I can select, as I say, all of these. So let's select all of them, for example. And quite a nice feature that people don't notice sometimes is this 24 minutes to 40 minutes. So it gives you sort of approximation of of how long it will take. And as I add more or take them off, that will then change. So you can see how long this would tend to take for a student. So you can think about your setting for homeworks or for completion at home. So then I assign it. Again, I can give the assignment a name, whatever it is, whatever works for you. And I can set in a start and an end date. So again, I can do whatever I want here. I can set a start date in the future, so students will only see it after the start date. I can set it for a specific day. I want them to complete it, so I want to complete it, say, by tomorrow. I want to do it, and you can select a start time as well. So say anytime tomorrow, for example, I want them to do it. And you click create, and then that will get pushed out to the students. Now, I've said the students, we actually haven't got any yet. And this is where the first sort of big integration with Teams and Classroom comes in. So I can invite my students up here, or again, get help, but let's just go straight in and invite. And you'll see that there's a few different options. And this is, as I say, the first time you'll see Classroom and Teams being included on there. So I'll show you the setup with Google Classroom first, and then you can see how the rest works. So if I click on Google Classroom, I can then invite a whole class through my Google Classroom using the integration. So I've clicked on that. It's come straight into my Google Classroom account. And I can select my group. So let's say I want to add it to this year 10 group I've got here. And the action I want to create is the same list of actions if you're familiar with Google Classroom that you'll always have. So for this, for example, if I was inviting my students to join my class on Seneca, I'd probably make an announcement about that. And I can click go. It then gives you the option to customize it. Say something like that, and the link is automatically generated for your pupils. You then have the option, if you want to invite multiple classes to this Seneca class, you can do that if you'd like, or you can just send it to specific students as well if you want. Something else quite nice about Classroom is you can schedule this or save it as a draft, or just post it immediately. So you've got a number of different options. That's quite a nice sort of setup with Google Classroom, but I'm just going to post it for now. And then that posts, and it gives you the option to view that post. So if I click view, I'll just double check where it's gone, and you'll see the different areas of Google Classroom that you may or may not be familiar with, but it's gone into our stream, which is sort of a way to think about the stream on Google Classroom is basically almost like a message board. So everything that a student does or a teacher does will pop up on here. And you can send messages to each other. Students can add comments, you can add comments. And what students will do is they'll come into their stream, they'll click on this link that's included within the announcement I've just made. And if you give it a second, the students will then be asked to log in if they've not already logged in. And then it will say you've just joined test, which if you remember, that's the name I gave to the class earlier. And it just tells them some information. And if they click continue, the student will then be basically routed to that class. You'll see we've got those 3 courses, that chemistry courses that I added. And if I had an assignment coming up, I'd have it here. Notice that assignment I set earlier would pop up. However, because I set it to start on the 1st of September, it hasn't yet popped up, but it would pop up tomorrow in this area here. So that's Google Classroom. If you're not on Google Classroom, you also have the option on Teams. So I'll just revert back to here. So again, if I want to do it on Teams, it's a fairly similar process, but I just click the link to go onto Teams. Again, I would be given the option to load for a minute. I first of all select a channel. So let's go, I've got a year 10 maths group in here, for example. Doesn't make sense, they're a maths group and they're going to have a chemistry course on their Seneca class, but you'll get the idea. So again, whatever, click to join class. And Microsoft Teams works in a slightly different way. You don't have to choose whether it's an assignment or an announcement or anything like that. It just gets shared there automatically. So then if I go onto my Microsoft Teams page, I'll see if I then go into my year 10 group, and it loads. There we go. That is the message I've just created. Click to join the class at 16:16. Again, if the student was to click on that, it would go through the same process as I've just done with Google Classroom, and it would join them to your class. So it's a really quick and easy way to get all of your students onto your class on Seneca using either Teams or Classroom. Now, I showed you earlier an assignment and how that was created. There's also an option to create an assignment and share it on Teams. I'm just going to remind people, by the way, if you've got any questions, just keep them coming up in the chat, and I will get to them in a moment, okay? So again, so it's saying I still haven't included an assignment. If I just, sorry, if I still haven't invited students, if I just hit refresh, it should load up that I have now joined this class. And you'll see we should have 3 courses, 1 assignment and 1 student. There you go, okay? So that is all set up and ready to go with my students. When they click on that link, they will automatically join the group. And any assignments that have already been set will be added for them as well. But I mentioned about sharing assignments. So sometimes teachers like to create assignments on Seneca, but they also want to make an announcement about that in their Teams or their Classroom. So, or their Google Classroom, sorry. So what you can do is you can add an assignment either just by clicking on the assignments here or clicking on this assignments tab down here. And you'll see this is the one I set earlier. What I can do is I can create another assignment, and again I can go through the same process as I did before. I can select whatever sections I want to set for my students. Let's just do those as an example. I can then assign it. You can see at the moment it's just 1 student in there, but I can also, if there was more students, I'd be able to pre-select for different students, and then I can click next. Again, give it a name. And a start and an end date, exactly like I did before. Now this time, because I've already got some students in my class now, I have the option to, and also linked it up with my Teams or my class or Google Classroom. I now have the option again to share this assignment on Google Classroom or on Microsoft Teams. So let's again start the process on Google Classroom, so you can see exactly what that looks like. So again, it's the same setup as you had before. You can choose your class you want to do it for, and then you can choose the action. So this time, because it is an assignment, what you should probably do is make an assignment on Google Classroom. So again, then click go, give it a title, type, and instructions. Click the link to access the assignment, and then it's slightly different on here. So now we've got, again, you can select who it's for by using these drop downs. If you're using the mark scheme within Google Classroom, you can select the number of points, or you can just select it as unmarked, and you can select a due date as well. So whatever it is you want to set it for. Something else quite nice about Google Classroom is you can have this topic feature. So at the moment, I've got a topic which is Macbeth in this class. So at the moment, I'll put it on no topic, and I'll show you what that looks like, and then I'll assign it to the topic so you can see what happens. So again, it will you have the option to schedule, save draft, or assign there and then. Again, I'll just assign so you can see what it looks like. And again, straight away you get the option to view, which you can do, and then give it a second to load. And you can see within the stream, again, remember the message board that we're talking about on Google Classroom, you can see that I've just posted an assignment called assignment 1. And if I go into classwork, which is where the classwork is basically put, you'll see this is that assignment 1 that I've just created there. And that's there ready for students to see. Now it's important to say that when you're setting assignments or creating classwork on Google Classroom, whatever you see in this classwork section is basically what the students see. So if you want to organize this in any way, there's quite a nice feature called topics that they have. So I can create a topic, call it whatever you want. I can create another topic, whatever it is in your subject. And what I can do is completely reorder these, so I can move them down or up depending on what is appropriate. And then also I can move this assignment that I've just created into the topics, just to help organize, probably for me partly as the teacher, but also for the students as well. So if that assignment, say, goes under topic 1, I can just drag and drop it under topic 1, and that helps keep things a little bit organized in there. Okay. So yeah, so that's setting an assignment in Google Classroom. Again, I'll just go back and show you the same process within Teams and what that looks like. So again, I've just created this assignment in Seneca. Click on Teams, and that will share the link again in the same way. I choose my channel, so my Year 10 Maths group, for example, give whatever message, and I can then share it. And as simple as that, my students then have that link to that assignment shared with them. So again, I'll just show you what it looks like for students from their point of view. So you'll see that 1622, I've just sent them this other assignment. And whether you're in Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams, the clicking on the link will take you to the same process, because it is the same link essentially. So I'll just show you what that looks like. So I've clicked on that link from Microsoft Teams, and you'll be able to see, here you go, this is this test assignment I've just set, and the student can just come in here and they can start learning, and it will take them through the assignment that they've got. So that is that. The other things to say are that on Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams, you have the option to share classes. So that is now an option we provide on Seneca as of the summer. So we're very excited about that. Very easy to set up. So I'll just talk you through the process of that. But say, for example, let's look at this class I've just set up as an example. Sorry, I'm on the wrong thing here. This is it, right. So I've got a class here, and you'll see now, so you've got options to add students, add assignments, add courses. You've also now got this option to add teachers. So again, if you want to add a teacher, you just click on add teacher, you just put their email in, and it will send them an invite to join that class, and that will allow teachers to set assignments on that class, view the data. Yeah, so it's really useful for sharing classes, potentially useful for like heads of department and SLT to see data across different classes as well. Now, I've mentioned that students doing lots of work on Seneca also creates lots of data. So I've gone through the process of inviting your students and setting up the class, also the process of inviting students to do assignments and complete that. And as I mentioned right at the beginning of my presentation, everything on Seneca is automatically marked. So when you then get that data through, I'll just show you through how to sort of look at it and the best ways that schools tend to think about this data and work with it. So there are 3 main areas basically where data is presented to teachers, sorry. So again, if I just go back to sort of the main page, and I want to see, say, data for this class, I can click on here, and as the 3 places that you'll find data are in students, insights, and assignments. So to start with the assignments, that is basically, I as a teacher have set one of those assignments, potentially with Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams, and I want to see how those students have done in the assignment. So I'll go on one of these past assignments here. What I'll do is I can click on an assignment, and I will see between the start and end date of the assignment that I set, I can see exactly how my students have done in those sections. So you can see here what I've set a few different sections as an example here, maybe 6 or 7, and I can see what my students have and haven't done. First of all, whether they've completed it on time, for example. So here I've got a cross for Felton here. That would be because there is an NA here, which basically means hasn't completed it yet. And then there's also a timer for if they've completed it, but it was late. And then none of these students have, but it would be a tick if it was completed on time. So this, as you can see, it's nicely red, amber, green, so you can quite quickly identify where trends are across the different classes, but you can also sort by any of these columns. So at the moment, I'm just sorting by status, but I could sort by this exception words, for example, section. I can see who did the worst. So I can see Leah didn't do very well, but I can also see who did the best. So yeah, I can see these students did really well. So I can use that to sort of identify what interventions I need to be putting in place and how best to do that. You can also change the metrics. At the moment, I've got best score selected, but say I wanted to see their worst scores. If they completed it more than once, I can just click that and you can see the data will change. And you can click from most recent, attempt, best score, worst score, average score, how many times they did it, and also the total time they spent on those sections. So there's lots and lots of data you can see on there within the assignment, and you can sort of use it to sort of unpick what your students haven't understood. Now, say for example, you have, let's have a look. So you have a number of students here who haven't done particularly well in some sections. What you're able to do on Seneca is automatically reassign those sections for your students based on how well they've done. So you'll see this button here that says Smart Reassign. So if I click on that, what I can do is create a brand new assignment that's specifically tailored to each student based on how they've done. So say I want to reassign this assignment for students who either didn't complete sections or got less than 50% on sections. You can pick as many as few of these as you want, but I'm just going to pick those two. If I then click reassign, again, I'll have to just give it a name. A start and an end date, just like before. Spell properly. And then I will click that, and that will send a personalized assignment to every student based on how well they did in the assignment before. So you'll see here we've either got NA, which hasn't completed it yet, or NS, which is not set. So you'll see that Yasmin, she's been reset 2 sections, this one here and this one here, based on how well she did before. But Lorena has been set these 2 because that's how well she did before, or not so well she did before. So it completely tailors the experience at a click of a button for your students, and they get the content that's as appropriate for them as possible. Again, you can share this on your Google Classroom, on your Microsoft Teams, whatever it is you want to do. The second place, so that's sort of assignments in a nutshell, basically. The second place that you can see data is in the Insights tab. So again, it displays data in a similar way to as we showed you on assignments, but it shows you specifically, it doesn't show you necessarily work that they've just done on assignments. It could show you independent study work. It can show you work over a longer period of time. So we can select the course first of all. I've only got 1 course in this class. I can select the metric like I did before. Those same options are available here. And then I can select a date range. So we're not just bound by the period that the assignment was set for in this position, in this situation. We can choose from the last year, for example, to see how students have done in a number of different sections. So I then select the sections I want to see data for. A bit like when I was selecting the assignments earlier, I can see whatever it is I want to see. And I can select those sections. And if you give it a moment to pull the data through, you'll then again see that red, amber, green, nicely see what your students have been up to. Again, change the metric, all the data will change. Whatever is most appropriate for you to see at that point, whatever it is you want to see, that's what you get. And you can sort by any of these columns again. So I want to see who's not done so well or done very well on these. Again, just click on the header of the column to sort them by that column. then the final place, oh, actually, sorry, before I go on, in both assignments, insights and students, if you want to be able to use this data in an application that's not on Seneca, that's absolutely fine. Obviously, we want to make that as easy as possible for you. Any place that we show you data, there is an option to download it to CSV. So that means basically it will just create a spreadsheet based on the data, based on whatever is on your screen at that time. Click this button, it will download a spreadsheet that you can then use in whatever way you'd like. And finally, we've got the students tab. So this is where you see like the highest level overview basically of what your students have or haven't been up to. So you can just basically see basic stats like the total amount of time they've spent learning on a course, their average score across all of their sessions, how many sessions they've completed, and how many answers they've got correct. So again, all of these columns can be sorted by, there's no data in here because these aren't actual real students, but for your students, you'd have all this data available, and you could select the date range just like we did on the Insights tab. Okay, so that is basically all I wanted to talk to you about on here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my my screen now. I'm going to come back to see if there are any questions. If there are more questions that have come up and you haven't had a chance to write them down yet, then I will keep them coming in so I can sort of answer them as we go. So first question from Sal is, does the adaptive learning take into consideration tiers? So yes is the answer. So for subjects where you have tiers in the different exam specifications, when you select a course, so like I selected the Edexcel chemistry course, for example, earlier in the session, sorry, you will select the foundation or the higher course, and that student will work on the foundation or the higher course. So it will take completely based on what you tell the system to do, whether it's you want the student to do foundation or higher, it will automatically be adaptive within that, and it's taken straight from the spec. Question from Caroline is, do we do entry-level courses? We don't do entry-level courses, I'm afraid. We do national curriculum courses for Key Stage 2 and 3. And then we have about 95% of the exam coverage that students take in the UK at GCSE and A level. So we've got a really high proportion. It's not just your sciences or your geography, your histories, or your mathses that you'd expect to be covered by a program like ours. You know, we want everyone to be able to use it where possible, whether you're a maths teacher or a food technology teacher. Sorry, not food technology, food prep teacher. So yes. Okay, question from Adele. Will we be able to access the slides and also the video after training? So yes, so on YouTube, we've got a Seneca CPD YouTube channel. So if you just search for that on YouTube, this exact presentation is currently being broadcast there. So so if you want to go and watch this again and see the presentation, then please do just head there. And if you want to see any of our other presentations in the past or in the future, just subscribe to that channel, but you'll be able to see everything on there. Also, after the session, you'll get an email from me, which will just basically talk you through how to get hold of your certificate for attending this webinar. Question from Sean. I hope I said your name right. Sorry, I'm not quite sure about the accent on the O, but it says, are there any plans to enable multiple teachers in one classroom? So I hope I answered that. So yes, that's something that we've brought in within the last week that is now available for you to use. You can now share classes with teachers, and head of departments can then therefore have oversight over a whole department, or SLT can have oversight over a whole school. Somebody who you share a class with has complete potential control. Say, for example, there's illness or whatever, you need to set some work, they can do that for that class with this new feature we've just released. And yeah, we're very excited about it because we know how useful it's going to be to everyone. Right, next question. So a question from an anonymous person about if there's multiple teachers for a whole year group, could we then set different tasks? So what I'd suggest is with the new setup of being able to share classes is you should have, each class should have their own class, and then as someone like a head of year or head of department will then be able to share classes across all of those different classes, share access across all of those different classes. So then they can then take that and set assignments across all those different classes. Okay. So yeah, question from Jay Andrews about whether students can study whatever they want, or is it just the stuff that they are set in assignments? So students can log on to their account. As I say, accounts are free to set up. So a student might be using it already without a teacher having used it at all. So students can have complete freedom over what they study and when they study it. Yes. Mariana, a question from Mariana. So can you set up a class before selecting a course? So yeah, so when you first create a class, it's one of the steps in setting up the process, but the class is already created before you set the course up. You will need to select a course for your students to be able for you to set any assignments or anything for your students, because that's basically what a class allows you to do, and that's the benefit of having a class. So yeah, if you if you give a bit more context of why you'd like to do that, Mariana, then I can understand, but I that's not something that sort of is useful necessarily to have a class without a course on Seneca, but you can do that within you could do that within Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams. Question from Carly. So can I see an example assignment? What do assignments look like on Seneca? So yes, what I'll do is, I will post or the best thing to do actually is if you have an account or you could create an account on Seneca, what I'd do is there's an option to try as a student at the top of your page. And then rather than me show you a generic session, Carly, what you'll be able to do is actually pick your exact course and specification, and you can go in there and have a look at all the content and see what you think. But yeah, the general gist of what a course or an assignment looks like is it will show the student first of all some content to learn, broken down nice and succinctly with bullet points. Dual coding will be automatically encouraged within that. And then from the content, we will then repeatedly quiz on that content. So about 20% of what a student sees in an assignment is the stuff they learn, the content, and the rest is all quizzing. And as I said a few times now, it will adapt. It will adapt accordingly for the students as they complete their work. But yeah, if you go and have a look, is what I'd say. Sal Philpott. So what information does Seneca hold in terms of GDPR? So obviously all the data that is fully secure. Like we take data privacy very seriously. The way our setup works is every user has their own responsibility for their own data. So and they have complete ownership over that data. So as a student, if I was signing up as a student, I would have complete ownership over my data. If I am a teacher, I have complete ownership over my data. Now, I only share data with another user if I give that permission. So for example, a student will not share any data with any other students or any teachers unless, well, there's actually no option to share information between students, but a student won't share any information with a teacher unless they decide they want to. So you'll see when I went through the process, the student has to click on the link and agree that they want to join that class in order for the teacher to see the data. We don't see any issues. Schools don't tend to have any issues with the sharing of the data between students and teachers, because obviously it's what you tend to do anyway. But the student does have to give the explicit permission for that to happen. But that's sort of within the process of inviting students to a class, that either happens or it doesn't happen, depending on what the student decides. So yeah, so that sort of happens already. Question from Laura: can you schedule an assignment in Teams? So no, unfortunately not. You just have, it's post or not post. Unfortunately, that's something Teams has control of. Unfortunately. Okay, so just going through. So yes, so Carly, are the assignments pre-created? So yes, the assignments are pre-created. The content's already there. The questions are already there, ready to be used. You don't have to create any content yourself. Okay, just scrolling through the rest of the questions. So question from Rebecca. So when I've previously set an assignment by selecting sections, some of my students have done extra modules. How can this be if I'm specifying which sections require completing? So to answer that first, the reason that is basically when a student completes an assignment, we don't stop them learning more if they want to continue. So the learning will carry on and continue. So there's no, yeah, we don't suddenly say, oh, you finished the assignment, you're not allowed to complete any more work. We don't want, that's sort of behavior from students we don't want to discourage. If they want to carry on learning, then we don't see that necessarily as a bad thing. Okay, and then her second part of Rebecca's question was about student data. So it shows as being done, or students say that they've done sections, but on Insights it's showing as incomplete. What can cause this? So there's a few different reasons that students might have completed work or are saying they've completed work, but it's not showing up on your screen. The most common one is that students might have 2 accounts, and the account that they've completed work on is not the one that's linked to your class. So you're looking at data for a particular account, they've completed work on another account which isn't linked. So obviously then it won't update. That's the most common one. The way you can get around that is you can see the email addresses of the students who are signed up in your class. So just make sure that they're logged in with those email addresses that are for the accounts linked to your class. The other fairly common reason that happens is if, as a teacher, you have selected an incorrect filter. So you see I was specifying the course, the time period earlier. Say, for example, you choose a time period that doesn't include the period that the students did the section, then obviously it won't show in that data. So that's another reason that sometimes happens. And that would be the same for assignments. So assignment data will only show you data after the start date. So say I set work to start a start date for assignment tomorrow, but the student completes it today, then that won't show. So make sure when you're selecting your start and your end date, you're covering the full period you want to see data from in your class. Reason again for that is a lot of teachers like to reassign work and get students to apply spaced practice by resetting work that they've already done. Again, which is a good behavior to encourage, but we only want to show you data from a specific period, for example. Okay, a few questions on that, so I hope that helps clarify it. Question from Rebecca: how can I assure students only do parts I select and not modules they haven't been taught the content for? So again, Rebecca, to go back to the previous points, we don't want to discourage positive learning behaviors. So if students are happy to go on and want to basically study independently on particular areas, then the content is there and available to use for students. A lot of schools use Seneca as sort of a pre-teaching tool as well. So yeah, that's an option that a lot of people employ. So and that's not something we want to discourage. So Stephanie, question about what does the unlock school data button mean on the Insights page. So as I showed you, all the data at the moment is based around classes. We do offer a program that's free to use for use of looking at data across a whole school, that is, if you click on that button, it will talk you through how to apply to get that, basically. So question from Dawn: does the assignment due dates in Seneca automatically map onto Microsoft Teams or Google Classroom? So unfortunately not at the moment. This is something we want to build in the future. Our integration with Microsoft Teams and Google Classroom is still it's in its infancy, basically. So it will definitely be something we work to bring in as soon as possible, but it's not something that's available immediately. The same would go for single sign-on. We're again working on that so that students and teachers just have single sign-on options for Google and Microsoft. But again, that's not something that's there yet, but it will be in the future. Right, I'm just going to continue to go through the questions. I'm aware I'm running over slightly with the questions, which is great. There's so many questions, but if I'm aware that if people need to go, then that's absolutely fine. Don't feel like you have to stay to listen to these unless you're interested, of course. Is there a way to smart reassign from the assignment data, not the insights or students data? So the smart reassign is only available from the assignment data. So it's not available from insights or students data at the moment. A question from Rhiannon: is this session being repeated? I'd like my department to take part. Yes, so just what I do is keep an eye on our social media platforms, or you can send them the link on YouTube, and they can access it remotely in their own time. Okay, question from Carly is: do I need to use my Google Classroom email to sign up to Seneca in order to link them, or can I use a different email? So no, you can use a different email. It doesn't matter. The accounts are separate. And yeah, as I say, in the future, there will be options for single sign-on, and we'll make sure you're able to transfer data appropriately for that. From Kate: if a student is enrolled in multiple courses, for example, several courses in English literature, this would also apply to the courses across history as well. There's lots of different options for that. Can we see an overview of their total time revising rather than on each separate course? So at the moment, Kate, no, unfortunately not. That is not something we are able to do within the system we have. It's something we are working on because we know, again, it would be useful for people like yourselves and people using multiple courses. Question from Laura: is it possible to archive classes from last academic year so we only see the classes from this school year? So yes, it is. If you just go and click on the class, click on the settings, then there's an option to remove that class, so you don't have to have that anymore. So a clarifying question from the anonymous question earlier about seeing a whole year group in one go. So they say, I would like the whole year group to have one code, but multiple teachers. Is there a way students can be assigned to a class so that multiple teachers can pick up the same class? So yes, that is an option. So you can add. So what you can do is you can add classes up to 200 students if that's what you want to do. And then you can add teachers to that class. So as many as you need, you can add. Yeah. Dawn says the left-right scrolling in Insights is a bit difficult to use. Is there a way to scroll using arrow keys or similar? So if you just on Insights, if you just hover your mouse over the data and scroll up and down on your mouse, then it would be able to scroll it for you so you can see it. So from Phil: do students have to have a Seneca account if they're accessing via Teams? So yes, they would at the moment until we have single sign-on. So once single sign-on's an option for us, then you won't need it. But yes, students would need their own Seneca accounts to access this. Question from Meg is: can you have different leagues for the Seneca leaderboard? So at the moment, there's just one leaderboard for students to compare each other to. Each student's given basically a pseudonym. which is an adjective followed by a noun, which they can choose themselves. But we've made sure we've removed all potential dodgy ones where possible. We've sort of spent quite a long time making sure that's not possible. But yeah, so there's just an option to see the global leaderboard, which is basically comparing you to everyone else. And you can select different time periods for that, Meg, if you'd like. Question from Ed: are there plans to add any Cambridge level 3, national level 3 courses? So yes, we're adding courses all the time. We want to get to other courses that have smaller enrollments, but it just takes time. As you can imagine, the courses we make take quite a long time to make. So yeah, I'll pass your request on, Ed, okay? How can you challenge or support students who are consistently green or 100%? Question from Ellie. So what I'd suggest for that is if they're getting consistently green stuff, I would first of all possibly look to use it as like a pre-teaching tool. So if you have students who are doing really well, you could set them on to work independently on. The other option is obviously to give them harder concepts as they go. So or look at the other courses. So it's not just our standard courses that we provide. We've got free courses on common misconceptions in subjects. We've got courses on sort of standardized assessment courses. There's lots of different options you can have. So just try and find a way to challenge those. But don't forget, within each of those, it will repeatedly adapt. So it will be pushing the student high. If they're getting 100% in every single one, then they're obviously doing really, really well. And what I do is encourage them to carry on looking at more volume of work, potentially looking through their wrong answers and things like that. So Caroline West, can you transfer a student from one class to another without deleting their existing data? So yes, you can. The data for a student is stored on the student's account, so it's not linked to the class at all. So that goes back to the GDPR question we had earlier. So the student has the data. If you want to remove a student from a class and add it to the new class, add that student to the new class, it will automatically transfer the data across to that new class. Okay, thanks, Kate, for your kind words. How can you preview a course before you add it to a class? So I've had a couple of questions on this. So what I'll do is I'll quickly share my screen. There's a couple more things I want to show you. That being the first one. So if I want to preview a course, what I can do is at the top here, I've just got the student platform button. If I click that student platform, it will take me through to the courses section. And then I can just choose whichever courses using these filters down the side here that I want, and I can preview any of these. So say, go in here, I can click Start Learning, and then I can preview this course from within what the students see, basically. Okay. So I could go in here and choose whatever it is I want. And away I go. Okay, so that's all there, ready to use. And the other thing I wanted to show you quickly was some functionality on Teams, actually, that's really useful, that in case you hadn't come across this yet. Just wait for that search bar to go. There you go. So on Teams, something that's quite nice, you can add a little Seneca tab at the top, which I forgot to mention, but it's a really nice feature. So very easy to do as well. So you'll see here as a teacher, this pops up. It's whatever you're logged in as, basically, it will pop up. So this will be for students, it will be their account. For teachers, it'll be their account. What you can do is just press this little plus button here. And you can add an app to this. So for this, you want it to be a website. Seneca 3, I'll call this one because I've already got a couple there already. But what you'll want to do is just copy the URL just up to .com. So there you go, HTTPS, this bit up to .com. I then pop that in here to the URL. See, it says, it gives you a little warning here, make sure it starts with HTTPS. And post in the channel, or decide not to, whatever. If you then click save, that will create that Seneca 3 tab, and you'll see it comes up. So it's within Microsoft Teams, you're able to have your own little Seneca section to make it easy for students to navigate to. Okay. So last few questions. So where did I get up to? Are there plans for A-level law? Again, Simon, yes, we'd love to add A-level law, and it's something I'll pass a request to let them know that you're looking at it. And yeah, as I said earlier, it's a long process to make a course, and law is a new area for us. But I will pass on your request, and we'll plan to cover everything eventually. It just takes a bit of time with a small team. Mariana, if you reassign a pupil who keeps getting 100%, will that challenge them more? So yes, so every time a student completes a session, that data is logged on the student's account, and the system will remember that. If a student does really well and has shown that they have competency in the different sort of subtopics, if you like, of that main topic, the one you set, then it will pick that up and it will just move them on to the next session quickly. So it won't drag them through a session. If they've shown competence in that, it will move them on to the next topic quickly. Carly says, is Seneca completely free? So everything I've shown you today is free, and we have free courses covering all of that content that I've mentioned earlier. We do have a premium product that's available for either individuals to buy or schools to buy, which basically gives access to a lot more content, some more premium learning modes that is available. But we use that basically as a way to subsidize our free platform. And the free platform we have is as good as any, well, better than any on the market. And then the sort of premium gives you an added boost on top of that. So yeah, everything I've shown you today is completely free. But if you'd like to know a bit more about premium, then just get in touch with us. Caroline West, yep, entry-level courses. I will pass that request on to our content team for you. From Area, again, I hope I said your name right there. Is there a Seneca tab on Google Classroom? I wish there was, because I think it's a brilliant feature. Unfortunately, it's not something Google offer. But yeah, it would be great if you did. NQT Science says, somebody asked, can you do even more, please, on the practicals in the light of difficulties we currently have? Did we miss it? Yes, so sorry, apologies if I missed any questions I didn't get answered. I'm skimming through the comments a little. So question about practicals, and yeah, so what I can do is, again, I can have a chat with the content team about that, because it's a good point with obviously having practicals being missed, and potentially the exam boards have changed their guidance on practicals, I know. So you know, you're allowed to do a lot more video demonstrations and stuff like that. So what I'll do is I'll have a chat with the content team and see if that's something we can do as well. Okay. Thanks, Adele. Thanks, Gareth. Okay, so Leona's asked about how Seneca can be used with Google Classroom. What I say, Leona, is go onto the Seneca CPD YouTube channel and you can watch this whole webinar again in full, and then you can see that. Some more course requests. So yes, I'll make sure I cover those. So that looks like all the questions that have come in. Yeah, if you've got any questions, then let us know just through our social media accounts. Is the best way to do it. Yeah, it's been really nice to sort of talk you through it, and I hope that's useful for the start of term. Good luck with your first week back. I hope it all goes well. I hope at least you've got a couple of inset days to sort of get used to being back in school and learning how school will work. But yeah, we would be interested to hear from any of you if there's anything we can do to help. That's why we're here. So please do sort of get in touch if that's something if you think there's something we can do to help. But otherwise, have a great rest of your last day back before school, And yeah, enjoy, and see you again soon for one of our other webinars. Thanks.